won't believe what a simple hug can hide or reveal. In this story, a lonely, grieving man named Harold meets a curious child who asks for just a moment of kindness. That innocent act sets off a chain of manipulation, secrets, and heartbreak, showing how even the purest gestures can be used for dark purposes. What Harold doesn't realize is that the woman he trusts has her own hidden motives. And her manipulations threaten to pull him into a world of deception he never saw coming. And just when you think you understand the story, a shocking truth is revealed, one that will change everything you thought you knew about innocence and trust. If you've ever felt alone or wondered if kindness can be dangerous, stick around because this story will make you question everything. Drop a comment and tell me where you're watching from. Your location might just be part of this mysterious journey. And hit that like button if you believe that trust should never be taken lightly, because what happens next will leave you stunned. I was shopping at the grocery store. It was a quiet day, and I moved slowly down the aisle. I looked at the shelves, looking for some bread and milk. I felt tired and sad. My wife had passed away a few months ago. Now, I was alone most of the time. Suddenly, I saw a little girl standing near the carts. She was small, maybe 6 or 7 years old. Her hair was bright and shiny, and she wore a pink dress. She looked at me with big, curious eyes. The girl took a step toward me and said, "Can I have a hug?" I was surprised. I looked down at her. She looked very serious. "A hug?" I asked softly. She nodded. "I need a hug. I feel sad today." I felt a little nervous. I didn't know this girl, but she looked sincere. She looked like she really needed comfort. I slowly knelt down and opened my arms. "Okay," I said gently. "Come here." The girl quickly ran into my arms and hugged me tight. I put my arms around her and gave her a quick hug back. I felt a small warmth in my chest. It was a strange feeling, but it made me feel a little less lonely. As I stood up, she smiled at me. "Thank you," she said softly. I looked at her and then around the store. I saw her mother nearby, watching us. She was standing a little distance away, smiling quietly. She seemed pleased, but her eyes had a strange look, like she was thinking about something. I didn't say much. I just nodded at the girl and went back to my shopping. But I kept thinking about that little girl and her quiet request. It was so simple, but it made me feel like I wasn't completely alone. When I left the store that day, I thought about her. I wondered if I would see her or her mother again. I didn't know what this little girl's name was or why she needed a hug so badly, but I remembered her face and her quiet need for comfort. That was the day I first met her. The day a small girl asked me for a hug, and my lonely heart felt just a little touched. I didn't know it then, but that moment would change things for me. It was the start of something I couldn't see at the time. And so, my story began. I sat at my small kitchen table, staring out the window. It was quiet today. I thought about the girl at the store. She was so small and full of energy. When she asked for a hug, I didn't think much. I just reached out and held her briefly. It was a small moment, but for me, it felt warm. I wondered if she had someone to hug her when she was sad. After that day, I went back to my routine. I washed my dishes and looked at my garden outside. I used to love my garden. I planted flowers when my wife was alive. Now, the garden feels empty most days, but I still spend time there. Plants don't say much, but they make me feel peaceful. One afternoon, I was sitting on my porch. I saw a woman walking down the street. She looked around, like she was thinking about something sad. I didn't know her, but I felt a strange pull to talk to her. Maybe I just wanted to say hello. Maybe I wanted to see if she needed a friend. She stopped in front of my house. She looked at me and smiled softly. "Hello," she said. "My name is Lisa. I live nearby." I nodded and said, "Hello, Lisa. I'm Harold." She sat down on the chair next to me. She seemed nervous but kind. We talked for a little while. She told me she was lonely sometimes. She said she liked to walk and look at flowers. I told her about my garden and how I used to plant roses and tulips. After a while, Lisa looked at me and said, "Would you like some company? I can come by sometimes. We can talk or walk together." I was surprised. No one had offered to visit me like that before. I felt a small spark of happiness inside. I nodded quickly and said, "Yes, I would like that very much." From that day, Lisa came to visit me. She brought some baked bread once, and we shared it on my porch. Other times, she just sat and listened. I felt better knowing someone wanted to be my friend. One day, Lisa brought her little girl. The girl was about the same age as the girl at the store. She was small, with bright eyes. She ran inside and hugged her mother's leg. "Can I see Harold?" she asked eagerly. Lisa looked at me and smiled. "Of course," she said. The girl ran outside and saw me sitting in my garden. She ran over and looked up at me. "Hi," she said softly. "Can I have a hug?" I blinked. She was so direct, just like the girl at the store. I looked at Lisa. She was watching us closely. "Of course," I said gently. I bent down and opened my arms. The girl threw her arms around me and hugged me tight. I felt her small hands squeeze, and I felt a little warmth again. I hugged her back and smiled. "Thank you," she whispered. "I needed that." After the hug, she ran back to her mother, laughing. Lisa sat beside me again, quiet but happy. That day, I felt a tiny spark in my heart. I realized that even small acts, like a hug, can make a big difference. Maybe I wasn't so alone after all. As the days passed, Lisa and her girl visited often. I looked forward to seeing them. I told myself I was lucky to have new friends. But deep inside, I wondered if they truly cared, or if I was just another person they visited to feel better about themselves. Sometimes I felt happy. Sometimes I felt worried. I didn't understand everything about these visits. But I wanted to be kind. I wanted to feel loved again, even just a little. One afternoon, Lisa's girl sat with me in the garden. She pointed at the flowers and asked, "Harold, do you have a garden like this at home?" I smiled and shook my head. "No," I said. "This is my special place. I planted it for my wife. She loved flowers very much." The girl looked at me with big eyes. "Can I help you plant a flower next time?" I nodded. "Yes, I think that would be nice." She giggled and ran around, playing with a small bug. I watched her, feeling both happy and sad. I missed my wife more than anything in the world. But today, I felt a little less lonely, because someone cared enough to listen, to visit, and to ask about my garden. That's how things started to feel better, even if I still carried my sadness inside. I didn't know what was coming next, but I was glad that for now, I had a little warmth again. And so, my days moved forward. With visits and small moments of kindness, I learned that sometimes, just a hug or a kind word can make a lonely heart feel a little less heavy. I didn't know what the future held, but I was trying to hold on to these small pieces of happiness. Tomorrow, I thought, I might plant a new flower. Maybe it will remind me that life can bloom again, even in the hardest times. I was sitting in my favorite armchair, looking out the window at my garden. The flowers were starting to bloom, and I remembered my wife planting some of them. I felt a little sad, but I also felt warm inside. I didn't see anyone around, just quiet and still. Then I heard a small voice. It was a girl's voice, bright and curious. "Hey, mister," she called from the grocery store nearby. "Can I have a hug?" I looked up and saw a little girl standing there. She was smiling, but her eyes looked sad. She held out her arms. I was surprised. I didn't expect that. I didn't know her. But I remembered how it felt to be lonely. I nodded gently. "Of course," I said softly. She ran over to me and threw her arms around my neck. It was a quick, warm hug. I felt a small spark of happiness. She whispered, "Thanks, I needed that." Then she ran back to the store. I watched her go, feeling a little confused, but also glad. For a moment, I forgot about my sadness. Later that day, I sat outside with my garden tools. I thought about the girl. Her simple act, asking for a hug, made me feel less alone. Maybe kindness can come from unexpected places. The next morning, I was surprised when someone knocked on my door. I opened it and saw a woman I didn't know. She looked kind, but I could see she was also tired, maybe lonely too. "Hello," she said softly. "My name is Lisa. I wanted to thank you for helping my daughter yesterday." She told me about the hug. It meant a lot to her, and it meant a lot to me too. I smiled. It was nothing. I felt sad, and I wanted to help. Lisa smiled back. "You have a good heart, Mr. Harold. My daughter and I would like to visit you sometime. We can bring some food, maybe talk for a while." I hesitated. I didn't want to seem too eager, but I felt happy. Being with someone again made me feel less lonely. "Sure," I said quietly. "I'd like that." From that day, Lisa and her daughter started coming by sometimes. They brought small gifts, food, toys, or just their company. I looked forward to their visits. I realized that even simple kindness could make a big difference. Every time Lisa visited, she would ask about my garden or my memories. Her daughter would ask about my flowers, and I would tell stories about my wife and the things I planted. We started to feel like a little family. But behind her gentle words, I noticed something strange. Lisa was very kind, yes, but sometimes I thought I saw her looking at me differently, like she was trying to see something hidden inside me. I didn't understand then. I only knew that I liked her visits. They made me feel like I was alive again. As days went by, I trusted Lisa more. I told her about my garden, about the flower I had planted for my wife. I told her about my old days, my hopes, and my sadness. She listened carefully, nodding. "You have a beautiful garden," she said. "It's like a little piece of your wife's happiness." Those words made me smile. I started to feel proud of my garden, proud of my memories. One evening, Lisa asked if she could see my secret spot, my special part of the garden where I kept the most precious flowers. "Of course," I said. I showed her my small garden corner. I told her about the flower I planted for my wife. I explained how I cared for it every day. She listened quietly and said, "You must love her very much." I nodded. "Yes, I do. I still do." As I shared my secrets, I felt I was opening my heart more than I ever had after my wife died. I thought maybe I had found new friends who cared about me. But I also felt a tiny shadow inside, a small voice that whispered, "Be careful. Not everyone who is kind has good reasons." Still, I pushed that thought away. I told myself, maybe I can trust them. Maybe I am not so alone anymore. In the quiet of my house, I looked at the pictures of my wife and me. I felt sadness, but also a little hope. Maybe, just maybe, there were still kind people in the world. And so, my days grew a little brighter, with visits from Lisa and her daughter. I kept planting my flowers, sharing my stories, and trying to forget the pain of losing her. But I didn't know that soon, some secrets would come to light. Secrets that could change everything. Secrets that would test my trust, and maybe even my life. And that is how my story in this new chapter begins. I woke up early that morning. The sun was shining through my window. I looked at my garden. The flowers I planted with my wife still bloom. I liked to spend time there. It made me feel close to her. I put on my coat and went outside. As I walked around, I remembered the day Lisa and her daughter visited me. They had come last week. Lisa brought a casserole and some toys for the child. The little girl had asked me for a hug that day. I still remembered how she looked at me with big, honest eyes. She just wanted comfort, I thought. I smiled at that memory. Suddenly I heard a knock at the door. I opened it and saw Lisa standing there. She looked kind, but I could see something else behind her eyes. "Good morning, Harold," she said softly. "I thought I'd check on you today." I nodded. "Thank you, Lisa. That's nice of you." She stepped inside. "I brought some fresh bread and fruit. Would you like some?" I felt a little happy. It was nice to see someone who cared. I sat down in my old chair. Lisa sat next to me and looked around my house. "You have a lovely garden," she said. "Your flowers are beautiful." "Thank you," I replied. "My wife loved to plant flowers here. She would be happy to see it." Lisa nodded. "She was lucky to have you." I looked down. I missed her so much. I felt a warm feeling inside, like a small light in my chest. Lisa smiled gently. "Harold, I know you feel sad. Sometimes talking helps. I want to be your friend. You don't have to feel alone anymore. I looked at her. Her words made me feel a little better. I remembered how lonely I had been since my wife died. Maybe it was good to have her visit. Over the next days, Lisa came often. She brought food, smiled, and listened. I told her stories about my garden and my wife. She seemed to care. I felt grateful for her kindness. One day, Lisa brought her daughter again. The little girl ran into the house and hugged me tight. "Harold, I need a hug today," she said with a big smile. I bent down and hugged her. "Of course, little one, that's what friends do." She looked up at me with shining eyes. "Thank you." After she left, Lisa stayed a moment. She looked at me carefully. "Harold, you're such a kind man," she said. "I think you need someone to take care of you. Maybe I can help more." I nodded. I felt a little hope. Maybe I was not so lonely after all. That evening, I sat outside, looking at the stars. I thought about the garden, the visits, and the new friends I had made. I still missed my wife, but I also felt warm inside. Maybe I had found some new happiness. Maybe I was not truly alone. But deep in my mind, a small part wondered, were Lisa's visits really just kindness? Or was there something more behind her gentle smile? I didn't want to think about that now. I just looked at the sky and took a deep breath. Tomorrow I would see her again, and I hoped that this time I would feel safe. I woke up early that morning. The sun was shining softly through the window. I felt tired, but I knew I had to get ready. Today was important. I was going to see Harold again. Harold's house was just a short walk away. I liked visiting him. He always smiled when I arrived. His garden was full of flowers, and he loved showing me his plants. I wanted to make him happy. As I reached his house, I saw Harold sitting outside. He was watering his garden. I smiled and waved. He looked up and waved back. "Good morning, Harold," I said softly. "How are you today?" He nodded and smiled gently. "Good morning. I'm okay. Just watering my flowers." I sat down beside him. "Your garden looks beautiful. Did you plant something new?" He chuckled. "Yes, I planted a new flower for my wife. I hope she would like it." I looked at his garden. The flowers swayed in the breeze. I saw a bright red flower near the fence. It was small, but very pretty. "That's a lovely flower," I said. "It must make your garden special." Harold smiled softly. "Yes, it reminds me of her." We sat quietly for a moment. I could see Harold's eyes look far away, thinking about his wife. I wanted to cheer him up. "Harold," I asked, "do you want to see my new toy? I brought it today." His eyes lit up. "Yes, I would like to see." I pulled out a small, colorful car from my bag. Harold reached out and smiled. "Wow, that's a nice car. You like cars?" "Yes," I said. "My friend gave it to me. I like playing with it." Harold looked at it carefully. "You are very lucky." Then I remembered something. I looked at Harold's face. He looked tired, but still kind. "Harold," I asked softly, "can I ask you something?" He nodded. "Of course. What do you want to ask?" "Can we be friends forever?" I asked with a big smile. Harold's face softened. "Yes, we can be friends. Forever." His words made me happy. I reached out and gave him a quick hug. Harold hugged me back gently. "Thank you, child," he said. "Your hug makes me feel better." I felt warm inside. I knew Harold liked my hugs. I wanted to help him feel happy again. After a while, I looked around. I saw Harold's garden. The flowers looked bright and cheerful. I thought about how Harold loved his plants. "Harold," I asked, "can I see your garden closer? I want to look at your flowers." He nodded. "Yes, come with me." We went to the garden. Harold showed me his favorite flower, a red rose. "This one is special," he said. "It's the flower I planted for my wife." I touched the soft petals. "It's beautiful. Your garden is like a special place." Harold smiled, but I saw his eyes get a little sad. I wanted to cheer him up again. "Harold," I said softly, "you have a very nice garden. I like visiting you." He looked at me with kind eyes. "And I like seeing you too." We stood there for a moment. I felt happy because I was helping Harold feel better. I knew that sometimes just being kind and spending time with someone could make a big difference. As I was about to leave, Harold reached out and squeezed my hand gently. "Thank you for today," he said softly. "You are a good friend." I smiled brightly. "I'm happy to see you, Harold." I waved goodbye and started walking home. I looked back at his house. Harold was still sitting in his garden, smiling at the flowers. I felt good inside. Helping Harold made me feel happy. I knew I would visit him again soon. And I thought about the garden, how it was full of memories, hope, and maybe even a little bit of magic. Just like Harold's kindness and the simple joy of a flower's bloom. I wake up early the next morning. The sun is shining softly through the window. I feel tired, but calm. My garden outside looks peaceful, with the flowers I planted last week swaying gently in the breeze. I like to water my plants, especially my favorite rose bush. It reminds me of my wife. I still miss her very much. Today, I decide to go outside. I put on my old coat and step into the garden. The air smells fresh. I take a deep breath and feel a little better. As I walk along the path, I remember the days when my wife and I used to sit here, talking and laughing. Those memories are like warm sunlight in my mind. Suddenly, I hear a soft knock at the door. I open it and see Lisa standing there. She smiles at me. "Good morning, Harold," she says. "Can we come in for a little while?" I nod and step back. Lisa and her daughter, Emily, walk inside. Emily is a happy girl with bright eyes. She looks up at me and says, "Hello, Mr. Harold. I brought you something." She holds out a small paper bag. I look inside and see a homemade cookie. I smile. "Thank you, Emily. That is very kind of you." Lisa sits down in the chair. "We just wanted to visit and see how you're feeling today," she says softly. I nod again. "I appreciate your visits," I say. "It makes me feel less lonely." Emily climbs onto my lap. She wraps her arms around my neck and gives me a quick hug. "I want to give you a hug," she says shyly. I feel a warm rush inside. I hug her back gently. Her small arms are tight around my neck. I feel grateful for her kindness. I think about how simple acts like this can make people happy. After a few minutes, Lisa stands up. "Would you like to see my daughter's drawing?" she asks. "Yes, please," I reply. Emily takes my hand and pulls me toward the kitchen table. There she has drawn a picture of a big, beautiful garden. There are colorful flowers, a small pond, and a bright sun. She points to her drawing excitedly. "This is your garden, Mr. Harold," she says. "I drew it because I like it." I look at her picture and feel a little tear in my eye. "It's a lovely garden, Emily. You have a good eye for colors." Lisa watches us with a gentle smile. "Harold, you have a beautiful garden. It's like a piece of your soul." I nod, feeling happy but also a little sad. I think about her words. My garden has been my comfort, just like my memories of my wife. Later, Lisa and Emily get ready to leave. Emily gives me another quick hug. "Bye, Mr. Harold. I hope I can visit again soon." I smile. "You're always welcome." As they walk out the door, I sit back in my chair. I look out at my garden and think about the day. The visits from Lisa and Emily make me feel that I am not alone anymore. Their kindness gives me strength. But inside, I also feel a small, quiet worry. I wonder how long this happiness can last. I know that sometimes people come and go, and not all kindness is true. Still, I choose to enjoy this moment. I stand up and walk to my garden again. I water the plants carefully. My heart feels a little lighter. The garden, like my feelings, needs care and patience. I tell myself to keep strong, even if I feel sad sometimes. As the sun begins to set, I sit on my porch and listen to the quiet sounds of the evening. I think about the people who come into my life, even if only for a little while. I believe that kindness can help heal the loneliness, even if the shadows are waiting just around the corner. Tomorrow is another day. I know I will see Lisa and Emily again. I will keep my garden alive, and I will try to hold on to hope. No matter what happens next. I woke up feeling tired and a little weak. My body was not as strong as it used to be. I knew the end was coming, but I still wanted to hold on just a little longer. I looked around my quiet house. My garden was outside, full of flowers I planted with my wife long ago. It was still there, waiting for me to visit. Suddenly, I remembered something. A secret I had never told anyone. My heart beat faster. I whispered it to myself softly. I kept a secret from everyone. I didn't want to say it out loud, but I felt I needed to. Maybe it was my last chance to be honest. I looked at the ceiling and closed my eyes. I remembered the times I spent in my garden, planting new flowers, watching them grow. That was my special place. I loved it because it was part of my wife. She used to help me plant the flowers. We would laugh and talk about the future. But now, I was alone. The house was quiet except for the faint sound of the wind outside. I felt a strange feeling inside me, part sadness, part peace. I wanted to tell someone my secret, but I knew I might not get another chance. Just then, I heard a gentle knock at the door. I slowly sat up and called out, "Who is there?" The door opened slowly. It was Lisa. She had a kind smile on her face. Her daughter Emily was with her, holding her hand. "Hello, Harold," Lisa said softly. "We came to see how you are today." I looked at her. I felt happy she cared, but I also wondered why she came so often. She always brought food and talked about her family. She made me feel less lonely, but I still wondered about her true intentions. "Thank you," I said weakly. "Come in." Lisa stepped inside, and Emily ran to hug me. She was a small girl with bright eyes. She looked up at me with a big smile and asked, "Harold, can I have a hug?" I was surprised. I remembered the little girl from the grocery store, the girl who asked me for a hug that day. I nodded gently and opened my arms. Emily ran into my embrace and hugged me tight. "Thank you," she said softly. "I needed that." I felt a warm feeling inside. It made me remember how much I missed my wife. I missed the days when we would hug and feel close. I looked at Lisa and saw her watching us carefully. Lisa sat down next to me. She asked, "Harold, do you want to tell me more about your garden? I have heard it's beautiful." I nodded slowly. I pushed myself up a little and looked out the window. Outside, my garden was full of colorful flowers. I loved that garden. It was my favorite place. I told Lisa, my wife and I planted many flowers there. We planted a special one for her. Every morning, I go there to remember her. Lisa listened quietly. I could see a flicker of hope in her eyes. She wanted to be part of my life. I fought. I liked having her visit. I liked sharing my memories. I felt a little stronger now, just talking about my garden. As the days went on, Lisa kept coming back. She brought gifts and sat with me for hours. I started to trust her more. I told her stories about my wife and my garden. I shared my feelings. I felt safe with her, as if I had found a new friend. One afternoon, Lisa asked, "Harold, do you have any secrets you want to share?" I looked at her. I felt comfortable. I wanted to tell her everything. I took a deep breath and said, "Yes, I have a secret I never told anyone." Her eyes looked at me carefully. I hesitated for a moment, and I whispered, "I kept a secret about my wife, about her death." Lisa leaned closer. "What is it?" she asked softly. I looked down. I felt nervous, but I knew I could trust her. I told her, "I never told anyone, but I think I know how she really died." Her eyes widened. She didn't say anything right away. She just listened. I felt my heart beat faster. I told her about the day my wife got sick, about how I found her lying on the floor, about what I saw and what I guessed. Lisa nodded slowly. She reached out and held my hand. "Thank you for sharing," she said gently. "That must be very hard for you." I felt a strange mix of relief and fear. I had told her my deepest secret. I wondered if I had made a mistake or if she would use it against me. That night, I lay in my bed thinking. I realized I was very tired. My body was weak. I wondered how much longer I could stay strong. But I also felt a strange sense of peace. I had shared a secret. Maybe now I didn't have to carry it alone. Before I closed my eyes, I whispered to myself. I told the truth. I was brave. As I drifted to sleep, I thought about Lisa. Was she really kind? Or was she using me? I couldn't be sure anymore. My mind was full of questions, but I knew one thing. I was tired of hiding. I wanted to be honest, and so I waited for what was next. I knew the end was near, but I also knew I had finally told my secret. That was my last gift to myself. The room grew dark, and I closed my eyes. I felt a gentle breeze from the window. Outside, my garden waited, quiet and peaceful. I hoped my secret would now stay safe, buried in my heart. And in that moment, I realized something. Even in my last days, I still wanted to be honest, because sometimes telling the truth is the bravest thing you can do. I sat in Harold's small house. The room was quiet. Outside, the garden Harold loved was still and peaceful. Harold was very sick now. His body was weak. He knew he wouldn't be here much longer. He was tired, but he felt calm. He had finally told Lisa the secret he kept for a long time. It had been hard, but now he felt a little lighter. I looked at Harold. His face was gentle, but sad. His eyes looked far away, as if he was thinking about his wife and his life. I sat close to him. I wanted to be there for him, just like he had been for me. Harold took a deep breath. "I feel peaceful," he whispered, "but I am also afraid. I wonder if I said everything I needed to say." I reached out and took his hand. "You said enough," I told him softly. "You are brave to tell your secret. Now you can rest." Harold smiled a little. "Thank you," he said. "Thank you for helping me trust again. I never thought I would be so honest before I go." Suddenly, Harold's eyes looked softer. He looked at his garden outside the window. "That garden," he said, "was my wife's favorite. I planted her a special flower. It was the last thing I did for her." I looked at the garden too. The flowers were bright and beautiful. Harold's garden was full of colors. "It's a beautiful garden," I said. "Your wife would be happy." Harold nodded. "I wish she could see it now. I wish I could tell her that I loved her very much, even after all these years." I felt my heart get heavy. I knew Harold was saying goodbye, but I also knew he was at peace now. He had finally shared his deepest feelings. Harold closed his eyes for a moment. Then he looked at me again. "Lisa," he whispered, "there is one thing I want to ask you." "What is it?" I asked gently. He paused. His voice was very soft. "Can I have one more hug? Just one more, before I go?" For a moment, I was surprised. Harold had never asked for something like that before, but I could see in his eyes that he needed it. I nodded quietly. Harold slowly moved his arms. His body was weak, but he reached out. I sat closer and wrapped my arms around him. He held on gently, as if holding on to a memory. I felt warm and sad at the same time. Harold's last hug was soft and quiet. It was not a long hug, but it was full of meaning. I could feel how much he needed to feel loved, even now, at the very end. When I let go, Harold looked at me one last time. His face was peaceful. "Thank you," he whispered again. "Thank you for being here." I smiled through my tears. "Goodbye, Harold," I said. "Thank you for trusting me." Harold closed his eyes. I knew he was tired. I stayed with him for a little while longer, holding his hand. I wanted him to know he was not alone. After a while, I quietly left his house. Outside, the garden still looked beautiful. The sun was setting, and the sky was turning orange. I looked back one last time. Harold was sleeping peacefully now. As I walked away, I thought about how Harold's last moments had been full of honesty and love. His final act was a simple hug, but it was more than that. It was a sign that even at the end, he still trusted and cared. And I learned something very important, that even small acts, like a hug, can hold deep meaning. They can show love, trust, and goodbye. Harold's story was ending, but his honesty would stay with me forever. The house grew quiet again. The garden was peaceful, and the memory of Harold's last hug stayed in my heart, reminding me that even in sadness, kindness and truth can shine through. I wake up and see the quiet house around me. Harold is gone. His bed is empty. The room feels very still. I stand by his chair and look at the garden outside. It's bright and full of flowers. Harold loved his garden. It was his special place, full of memories. I feel a strange mix of feelings. I am sad because Harold is no longer here, but I also feel thankful. Thankful for the time I spent with him, for the moments he trusted me and shared his secrets. I think about the last thing he told me. It was a secret so quiet I almost couldn't hear it. But I did. It was a secret that changed everything. Harold's house feels empty now. I walk slowly through the rooms. Everything is the same, but somehow it feels different. I sit in his chair and look out the window at his garden. I remember how he used to smile when he talked about his wife, about planting flowers. His garden was like a small world of memories. I think about Harold's last moments. He was very sick, but he wanted to be honest. He wanted to say the truth before he died, and he did. He whispered a secret to me. It was something only he and I knew. It was about someone who wanted to be loved and seen. His trust was so deep, it reached into his last breath. Now I feel a little strange inside. I wonder about all the things Harold shared with me. I feel a kind of sadness, but also a quiet hope. Harold's last gift was not just the secret, but his trust. He showed me what it means to be truly brave, to be open, even when it's hard. I stand up and walk outside. The sun is shining softly. The flowers in Harold's garden bloom more brightly than ever. I breathe in the fresh air. I feel that Harold's spirit is still here, in the garden, in the house, in the memories. I think about what I learned. I learned that even in sadness, there can be kindness. Even when someone is lonely, they can find peace if they share their truth. Harold showed me that. He trusted me to the very end. As I stand there, I hear the faint sound of children's laughter in the distance. It's a simple sound, pure and free. It reminds me of Harold's childhood, of innocence and hope. But now I know that even innocence can carry shadows if we are not careful. I look around one last time. Harold's house is quiet again. But in my heart, I feel a little more alive. I know that Harold's story is not finished. It lives in the garden, in the memories, and in me. I take a deep breath and gently close the door. I will remember Harold's last secret. I will carry his trust with me, and I will try to be honest and kind, just like he was. Because in the end, even the deepest secrets can teach us something valuable about love, trust, and the quiet strength inside us all. And maybe, one day, someone will share a secret with me too, and I will listen with an open heart just like Harold did. The house stands still, but inside I feel a warm hope. Harold's story may be ending, but his kindness remains, and that is enough to keep going, to keep believing in the good. The laughter of children fades into the distance, and I walk away, carrying Harold's last gift, his trust, his truth, and his quiet hope. I sit quietly in Harold's house. It is very still. The room feels cold, but I can still see Harold's chair where he used to sit. His garden outside is quiet too. I remember how Harold wanted to be kind, how he listened and smiled. Now everything feels empty. Harold is gone. He passed away last night. I know this because the house feels different. The man who was so full of stories and tears is no longer here. His face was peaceful, like he finally found some peace. I feel sad, but I also feel proud. Harold trusted me. He shared his biggest secret. I hope I helped him find some comfort. I walk slowly around the house. Everything is just as he left it. His little garden is still there, with flowers he loved. I look at the flowers and think about him. Harold loved his garden. It was his special place. He put so much care into it. Now, it feels like Harold's last gift to the world. I sit on his old chair and remember him. I think about how he opened his heart to me. He was lonely, but he never gave up. He wanted someone to understand him, and I tried to listen. I hope he knew he was not alone, even when he was sick and tired. Suddenly, I hear a faint sound. It's soft, like a whisper. I turn around and see a small, flickering memory of Harold. He is smiling and holding a flower from his garden. I suddenly feel warm inside. Harold's kindness stays with me, even now. I remember the last thing he told me. It was a secret he kept until his final moments. I won't tell it now. Some secrets are too heavy, but I know it was important to him. It was a part of his truth. As I sit quietly, I think about what Harold wanted most. It was not just kindness from others. It was to be understood, to be seen for who he really was. I realize that even though Harold is gone, his trust remains. His courage to be honest was a gift. Outside, the sky turns darker. Night is coming. I stand up and walk to the door. I look back at the house. It feels peaceful now. Harold's spirit is here, in his home and garden. I can feel his presence, quiet and gentle. I take a deep breath. I promise to remember him, to keep his story alive in my heart. Harold's last act was a hug, a simple act of love. It was a gift, and I will carry it with me. As I leave Harold's house, I hear a faint laugh. It's the sound of a child's laughter. It echoes in the air, soft and pure. It reminds me of innocence, of trust. But I also know that even innocence can be broken. Even kindness can hide pain. I walk away slowly, thinking about everything. About Harold, about trust, about secrets. I know that some acts of kindness can hide dark feelings. Sometimes even the kindest actions have a reason behind them. And that is a lesson I will remember. In the quiet night, I look back one last time. Harold's house stands still. His garden is calm. I hear the child's laughter again, fading into silence. The world is full of stories, stories of love, loss, and and hope. And even after a person leaves, their stories stay. They stay in the memories we keep. I walk home feeling a gentle sadness, but also a small spark of understanding. Harold's journey was full of pain, but also truth. His trust was brave, and his final act was a gift. I will never forget him. And as I go, I think about the last thing Harold told me, about kindness and secrets, about how even the smallest act can hide something darker, about how innocence can be fragile. And I know now that everyone has a story, some hidden, some open. And that's what makes us human. The night is still. The stars shine softly above. And I carry Harold's memory with me, deep inside my heart. His story is over, but his lesson remains. Be kind, be honest, and remember, even the purest acts can hide shadows. And sometimes the greatest gift is simply to trust and to be brave enough to share your truth. Goodbye, Harold. Your story will stay with me forever.